Hello, this is Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 30 of The Grief of Politics, and I'm joined once again by Avin Carroll. Avin, how you doing?
I am good, and good morning.
Yeah. So originally, like I don't care. I care. Originally, you chose, we were going to talk about Second Amendment rights and gun rights and things like that, but with you...
Separately from the Second Amendment, I wanted to discuss specifically gun control laws, subset under the Second Amendment, and I think we should discuss that at some point. We've had, it's 2023, we've had quite a bit of gun violence this year, and so it's a hot topic again. But it's been buried by a new topic.
Yeah, you texted me last night, and I thought about this as it was happening. What do you want to talk about, Evan?
So, it's all over the news right now. The indictment on Trump for what everyone's calling the documents case, the documents that he kept at Mar-a-Lago after leaving the Oval Office, and the charges were brought up on the 8th, so about a week ago or so. We're recording this on June 18th.
Yeah.
Father's Day.
Yay, happy Father's Day, everybody out there, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I just thought, it is a pretty hot button topic. There's a lot of division on it. And all over the news right now. So I thought it'd be a better topic for us to discuss.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because we've talked about before about, the media, the corporate media, we talked about biases and stuff, and I have tried to listen to news from different sources, and to me it is very interesting. It's not even, it seems like what I've really been trying to home in on is like not legal theory, but legal theory, but from lawyers and like what they've been saying about the case and really listening to them, and some investigative journalists that have covered stuff like this before. And it is interesting. I heard a really interesting take about the actual Espionage Act law, and a lot of people think that it is outdated or whatever. But part of me thinks that's kind of a strange thing to talk about now that we're in the middle of the indictment. It seems like if that's something that could have been changed, we might had to have done that before. You know what I mean? Like before, instead of all of a sudden saying, "Oh, this law is unjust." It's like, oh, when we're in the middle of this, or we've just started this process, basically. So I don't know. What do you think reading about all this stuff? Obviously we're going to talk about some articles, but just like your general thoughts about.
So, ever since this came out, I've kind of been like, oh man, this could be the thing that undoes Trump. Mm-hmm. And the kind of the reasoning behind it is what was originally discussed as what he kept was pretty damning from what was originally brought up. And there's media bias for sure. And I would agree with Trump that I think particularly media, but even more so, or even as well as his political rivals or opponents I would agree that I think they've been trying to find a way to get him since he started running for office back in 2016.
Yeah.
But then again, that's politics. That's what we do in this country. And
the same can be said for Biden. We've been talking about Hunter Biden and Ukraine and what's that? Not Furisma,
right?
Whatever, Urisma or whatever that company is. Like, it's the same thing.
But that's the whole point I'm getting at, though, right? Like, I agree with him that's what's going on, but welcome to politics, buddy. Quit being a baby.
Yeah. Lock her up, Hillary. That happened during the, all that stuff.
Exactly. And the right-wing media was all over it and going all over it. And so, leading into this, I already thought that this was a pretty damaging case. And if they ended up finding anything dangerous, they'd move forward. Now, the interesting thing to me is Trump correct? Does he have the right to declassify things after he leaves? Right? We know that the president of the United States is allowed CIA briefings after they've left being president. We know that they're still given a lot of access. So is this really that bad? And then everything got
unsealed. They unsealed the indictment. Yeah. Because at first it was like, oh, there's unsealed. 7 charges. This looks bad, but we'll have to wait and see. And then they unsealed it, and it was like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's after that I'm like, like, he's a former president, so I'm not going to be shocked at all if he doesn't go to jail, because rarely does anyone at congressman or senator ever face prison time.
Well,
and so
many of the Republican people running for president now have flat out said, Vivek Ramaswamy has said, I will pardon him. I think JFK maybe said that. Well, JFK was a Democrat, but presidents have weighed in on whether they'll pardon him or not. I think Chris Christie said he will not, or Mike Pence said he will not, I believe was the thing.
So the thing is, if he gets convicted, he would most likely be pardoned, or his not execution, where he wouldn't execute him. I mean,
in the media they will.
At what level of treason he would have tied to him if he's convicted, but I highly doubt that would even happen.
Right.
But criminal negligence, heck yeah. But after unsealing the documents, and I pulled up a Fox News article on it, and it was before everything was unsealed, so I didn't read one after it was unsealed, but their initial spin on it was like, oh, these are like not important things. There's not very big stuff. And then you go in and you read the stuff that's in it, and you're like, you guys literally cherry picked like the least offensive things that you could,
right,
from what was actually like we already knew about.
Well,
now that it's been unsealed, he was incompetent.
Well, even the original lawyer that you had, like, I'll bring the articles. You had his name is Turley, Jonathan Turley, which I've heard a lot about, even in the progressive press. He is kind of a ride or die guy for Trump. He talked a lot about Russiagate and all that, and how he thought it was like a Trump, pardon the pun, a trumped up charge, and it was ridiculous. But I watched the one that you sent the before, and then there was one from MSNBC that was basically like after it was open, and he said that this is really damning. He said and what I really find fascinating about it, and I didn't you didn't send it as your articles, which I understand there's a lot of stuff in here, but I do really like Legal Eagle. He's a YouTube channel, and he does present both sides, even though he's a lawyer, and the way he spoke of. He's like, this is going to be really difficult, because what makes this interesting is that Trump's own lawyers took notes and recorded things, because I think they had a feeling of like, this isn't good. And they
don't want to go down with the ship.
Right. And three so far have left his legal team. One just the other day, two right after the documents, I think, got unsealed. They're like, we're out. And they recorded all this stuff, and apparently an audio tape of him sharing these documents got leaked to the press. And Fox News was very much like, well, how did this get leaked? Blah, blah, blah. And Turley even said, well, I think this is a like a planned leak. But at the same time, that doesn't make it any more damning that a president
any less damning.
Yeah, any less damning that a president would say, hey, look at this. You probably shouldn't be looking at this, but look at this. Like, that's pretty bad. And
this is a secret thing that I have access to. Isn't it really cool?
Yeah.
You should like me more because of it, right? Like, it shows the fragility of his ego, one, which I've always said the guy's got a fragile ego.
Yeah.
But two, like, why? Why would you share this with anyone?
Well, you know what it was? There was a quote in there by the lawyer who was taking notes after they'd have meetings, because again, I think they were like, no, I can't. This is not, people deserve a defense, but when it's just blatant, I think what was interesting was they wrote that when they went to Trump, the team went to Trump and they said, we need to go through the boxes to look, and because they're asking us, right? We're being asked. And Trump said, I really don't want you going through my boxes. And I think it's that idea, he is a narcissist, and it's that idea of it's my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. These are things that I have. And it's like, that's true, but also, they're classified information.
Somewhere in the indictment, and I didn't see any of the articles talk about it too, but somewhere in the indictment too, I read that he basically admitted that he knew that he didn't have the right to declassify them after the fact.
Yeah, in fact, if you read that, like, I listen to a progressive podcast, the people, it's called Pod Save America, they used to work in the Obama administration, and they read it as like a play, and sometimes I don't like them because they're very, they're very New York upper crust, like, very flippant about this stuff. But when they read it, they said, you can tell just by reading this that the person who's like laughing and stuff in the tape is like nervous, like like, haha, yeah, like maybe I shouldn't be looking at this. Like you have this feeling, and Trump's like, I should have declassified it when I was a president, but I can't now. And the person's like, haha, now we kind of have a problem. Like you can almost hear them, like the nervous energy of them, like, I want to leave now, or like get ejected out of this room, or shot out of a cannon. I don't want to be here. Yeah.
The pictures of the boxes in the bathroom and on the stage, and like just places that anyone could get to it.
And
like,
it has been reported.
We don't know who's looked at those documents.
It has been reported several times in many outlets that there has been known people of influence within different governments that have gone to Mar-a-Lago, bought a membership, hung out. So you're like, okay, well, is this person a spy? Well, we don't know, but this stuff's just in a ballroom, like it's not in a skiff. So like, could you imagine being an international agent or an asset and walking into a ballroom and go, oh, what? Like,
even an ally.
Yeah.
Even an ally that were to do that, like the country that we are aligned with, right? Like it would be one of those things where you'd be like writing back to your headquarters, like, hey, look what I just found.
Yeah.
This isn't terrifying.
And the amount of text back and forth of like, can you believe this? I was thinking about it. I think Trump probably will be convicted because there's a lot of stuff that they have a lot of evidence of him saying that, blah blah blah. If he gets convicted, I do think he'll get a pardon, depending on who is in office and whatever. I would think it's interesting to see how long it takes to get that pardon. And I read somewhere yesterday that there might be some civil thing because of Bedminster, the actual golf course or whatever, that was brought up in the indictment several times. And so this may be like a state charge, meaning that if he is pardoned I don't know how the pardon system, we talked about it a little bit, but I don't know how it really works. Like is it going to be, is he going to be able to be pardoned of federal crimes, but like state crimes, or like we can't? I don't know how that works. Is he going to end up going to jail for, in another way, basically?
Is he going to go to jail at all? Right. Like, so one of the articles that I brought up, and I think it was the article from The Hill.
Oh, right.
So it's from The Hill, written by Dominic Mastrangelo. I'm going to probably butcher that.
Sure.
So that was published Monday, and I don't have my calendar handy. So what day was Monday?
Like
Monday
the 14th,
was the 12th.
probably? Oh, yeah, okay.
12th.
Okay.
So Monday, June 12th, in The Hill, the article is Fox News' Turley. Trump faces terminal sentence if DOJ proves even one count. So basically, of all of the charges against him, all of the counts of all of the charges against him, it varies from a 20-year maximum sentence, 10-year maximum sentence, and 5-year maximum sentence. Mm-hmm. If even one of these sticks, right? Like Trump is 76.
Yeah.
Like if even one of these sticks, it's probably the rest of his life. Another reason that sentencing might actually be very light.
Right.
But I heard in the same article, the quote from Turley basically says, like, he's got to run the gamut. He has to beat all 37 of these.
Oh, yeah.
If he doesn't want to go to jail. And the likelihood of that is very low.
Yeah. To me, it is, there's all those jokes about Trump wriggling out of something or wiggling out of something. And this thing, yeah. And the famous tweet is, well, let's see how Don wiggles his way out of this one. And then the response, Trump wiggles his way out of this one. I think this is a thing where like, it may have just run out. And you know what I think is really interesting? Have you read anything from his family? Mostly Don Jr. and Eric and Ivanka and Jared are gone. And his young kids are his young kids, Tiffany and Barron. They're, whatever. But you'd usually see Eric and Don go on some show or even a podcast just saying, that these are illegal charges. It's a witch hunt. Why is the government going? And have you seen anything? Because I just think it's one of those things where even they're like, I don't know, like, I don't know if I can't really.
I didn't include it in these articles, but over the week this week, I read through another article that basically was like, who was it? It was a former Trump aide or advisor or something, they basically come out and said, no, like he is extremely stressed out right now. Like he knows the trouble that he's in with these charges.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as much as I want justice and all that, and I want to see him in jail, I think, didn't they say the knock-on effect of getting convicted of this, not the pardon, but being convicted, is he can't run for office again, right? That's like one of the knock-on effects I heard because of
I do believe so.
Yeah. So I don't think the pardon would supersede that. It's like, yeah, you were convicted, you were pardoned, but you still cannot run for office. And I know a lot of people are talking about, I hate this on the left. A lot of people are talking about, we got to do this quick. He's going to run. It's like, to me, that doesn't matter, because I think what we're seeing in the polls, and you actually brought that up in your article, that even though it's going up in the, with his base, the general electorate, it's slowly starting to go down, and more of these things are going to hit. You're going to get another news beat when he goes to trial. He's already been the indictment. You're going to get another news beat when that thing in New York pops off again, that charge with the hush money. You're going to get another news beat when the Georgia thing pops off. I heard he's going to go back to court for E. Jean Carroll, the woman because
the judge approved it.
Yeah, because he had to pay the money. He was found guilty in a civil case, and then he went on CNN Town Hall and said, "Let me tell you what really happened," and then defamed her again. And could you imagine her waking up, like watching that, just going, "Well, I'm just going to go back to my lawyer and just go talk to my lawyer again." And
can I have another 5 million, 10 million,
whatever? Yeah, whatever they decide.
Come on, pay up.
It's just one of those things where I think you and I talked about it a long, long time ago. It's like, man, when you become president, everybody is looking at you. And this is very dangerous for him to, want to get into this position where everybody's going to be looking over his assets and everything just so strictly. Yep. And it's, I don't know, man. It is, and everybody wants justice. But again, I think if he is convicted of it, can't run for office, even if it's pardoned, it's like you've taken someone who is a major narcissist and be like, you're no longer the center of attention. And you cannot be the center of attention anymore. Go back to Mar-a-Lago, have the meet and greets. He was even crashing people's weddings at Mar-a-Lago. Did you read about this? So people, people were having weddings at Mar-a-Lago, and he would just show up. Now, they said sometimes it was welcome, sometimes it was not. Like and it wasn't even political. It's like, well, this is our event, and then Trump would show up, and it's like, what? Because, the wedding, the day is about the couple and all this. And then Trump shows up and everybody wants a picture with him. It's like, I thought it was our day. And now everybody's over there in the corner getting a picture with Trump. Like so.
But it's who he is. It's the core of who he is. It's the core of who he's always been. And, I was thinking about it today, and I'm like, why is everyone so desperate to have him still stay and be able to run for president, right? And so there are a couple of things. The more conservative spinning articles that I read, the Fox News article and the cover of Turley's events, they really want to bring up Trump, and Trump's own response even immediately afterwards really wants to point out, like, Biden's done it, Pence did it, like other people have done this. Why are you coming after me? This just proves how corrupt we are. And my response is, you're right.
Yeah.
However, if any of them are going to be held accountable, you should be held accountable too. Yeah. So if you want to go after them for doing it, you have to come after yourself.
Exactly.
It's not a defense.
That's the one thing that really bothers me on the right, because on the progressive stuff I listen to, people are like, yeah, if Hillary did something wrong, go after her. We don't care. Like, do it. If Biden did something wrong, do it. If Pence did, do it. If Hunter Biden is found, apparently there's some stuff coming out that there's like an FBI informant involved with that maybe they have some audio recordings. Do it. I don't, on the left, I'm like, yeah, go after all of them. I don't care. But that means if you're going to have that same whatever, then go after Trump. If he gets pardoned, that's one thing, but go after him. And I do think Jack Smith, when he came out and read the statement at the indictment, you do see that he is a man of few words. I mean, the statement was only like 2 minutes. I don't know if you watched the clip. It was only like 2.5 minutes. And he basically said there's one set of laws in this country and they pertain to everybody. Nobody is above the law. And please read the indictment. And I thought it was weird because I guess apparently he said out before the press conference, hey, I'm not going to be making any statements. I'm just going to, I'm not going to take any questions. I'm going to read the statement. I'm going to walk away. Of course, a reporter tried to yell at him about whatever, ask him a question. He just walked away. Like I said, I wasn't going to do that. But yeah, to me, it is a thing of, if this goes to trial and he's found guilty, I don't know about the pardon process, but I think I've been thinking about this a lot too, and maybe we have to do a whole episode on it. But this idea of we no longer trust institutions, as people, we don't trust the government basically and institutions. And what I keep hearing of these conservative podcasts that I listen to and stuff is like this complete, utter hopelessness and defeatism attitude of like it's all going to heck. It's all going to hell. And I do understand that as a human being on the planet when you read the news and you're like, well, this isn't looking good. But I do think stuff like this, like, yes, do I totally trust the FBI? No. But I believe there's people in there that said, we have to do this. Politically we have to. And I do think that there's just this idea that we can't look at anything like that, because then what's the point? What's the point of everything? Like you could sit at home and not. And so that's why I'm kind of glad this is happening, because it's like, yeah, like try him, like he gets a defense as well. If his lawyers can say, this, I think, I don't know legally how this would work, but again, I think while the train is running, it's not the time to say that the train shouldn't have cars on it, or basically, hey, this law is illegal. It's like, we're in the middle of the trial, man. That was before. Now we have to deal with it. Maybe on an appeal, maybe they could go through that. So,
and that's always the way that we deal with this stuff, right? Is like, if there's a law that ends up being unfair or unjust, like, we still prosecute it through, but we bring it to Congress and Senate, and they review the law and they work on it, change it, amend it, repeal it, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But you don't do it while you're in the middle of a trial and like argue the validity of it in the midst of did you break this law?
Right.
Like, you did or you didn't, and we're going to go through the evidence. And the evidence in this case that's been laid out, like, the DOJ has an incredibly strong case. Say what you will about the case in New York, right? Like, that looked pretty flimsy, and we'll see. They seem to think that they can make it stick for the hiding the hush money payments.
What?
But this one,
I mean, the way that we talk about stuff in the group of politics, to me, the New York one with the hush money didn't interest me as much as obviously this one, because it's classified information. And Jack Smith said that is indictment. That was one thing he said about like these intelligence items keep our agents safe, overseas. And by having these things, then it could compromise people that, risk their lives to protect the country. And I thought about that a lot with our podcast about like people are going to be like, if their names are leaked, then those people could be either dead, put in a black hole somewhere, like we don't know, or their families could be targeted, something like that. And also nuclear secrets is a big deal too.
It doesn't sound like that's what they found in here. Like, reading through what was in the documents and kind of the case, right? It sounds like they've got stuff on America's defense capabilities, some weapons capabilities. We've got intelligence that we're sharing with foreign countries in it. Let's see. Going through the Politico article I got, which was published.
Oh, here we go.
On the 9th.
Yeah, this is the one that was
June
like this was like the meat and potatoes of the charge and everything. Yeah.
So Trump haphazardly stashed military secrets throughout his home, indictment says. This was done by Kyle Cheney and John Gerstein in Politico on 6/9. And if you kind of just reading through the article, where's the one I was just looking at?
It says right here, prosecutors
including some labeled as Five Eyes Intelligence, a reference to the group of nations that are most closely allied with the United States and engage in higher level of intelligence sharing. So, like, what's in that? Why are you sharing these documents with reporters that are interviewing you? Like, they have no need to know what's in these documents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't. Go ahead.
In one of the other articles, it highlights stuff that Trump said on Truth Social after he announced that he was charged. And one of the things that he said was, I gave all these documents back after they asked for them. And yet, in the indictment itself, and I haven't read the full indictment. I'm not a lawyer. 1, 2, I think I'd fall asleep reading it because that kind of stuff is pretty boring to me. But in the indictment itself, according to Bill Barr, in an interview with him, they actually document how often they went to Trump asking for the documents, and then tie it into a timeline of him asking his lawyers to remove things that could be particularly damning.
What if we just
tie it into timelines on him asking stuff to be moved around and hidden within Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah.
Like, He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. What if we just didn't have documents? Like, that's one of the things he tells his lawyers. Just immediately, as a lawyer, again, everybody deserves a defense, but I'm sure if your client said that to you, you would immediately go to your hotel room or apartment or house or whatever and write all that down. Or you would just keep your recording function on your phone going while you were talking to them, because you're like, I don't want to be incriminated. In fact, I think one thing that we didn't mention, the biggest part about this trial, which I think is pretty fascinating, is the DOJ was able to pierce attorney-client privilege, because they said, oh, there's a crime here. And so we want to see your records, Trump's lawyers. And they were able to bring that to a judge. And the judge said, yeah, I think something. And I don't think there was malfeasance on the lawyer's part. I think even the lawyers kind of, again, we've seen people leave. And I think the lawyers were like, we got to write this down. This isn't good, you know? So.
And his own chief of staff has testified against him to a grand jury, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He's in an extremely tough position.
Yeah.
So if we go and we look at the article on polling, this is the part that really had me like, but why?
Yeah, the MSN.
No.
The MSN, or it was from the Intelligencer, but for some reason it opened up on Microsoft for me on MSN, which is weird.
Because I looked it up in Bing.
Oh, yeah.
So like their links back to it. So it's an intelligence article.
Hang on. Breaking news. Avin used Bing. He's the one of the 3 people that are using Bing right now. Every time it comes up as a search thing, I'm like, sorry, Bing, I'm not using you.
Right. Is this the article? Yeah, so this was, it actually got linked to this article from Real Clear Politics. But the thing in me that's like super interesting is that even after these indictments have come out, particularly this one, and admitting that this was just Thursday, so it was the 14th.
Oh, right. Okay.
No. 15th, I think. Even though this was just Thursday, June 15th, 23, the polling that they've done doesn't necessarily have all the information about what was in the indictment since it's been unsealed.
Right.
But some of them do, and his poll numbers haven't moved. Yeah. He's still leading in the Real Clear Politics kind of averaged poll by 1.2 points.
Right.
Against Biden, not DeSantis. He's still got a massive lead on DeSantis, and the other Republicans are trailing even further behind.
Yeah.
People still think he can beat Biden.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they brought up in here, let's see if I can find the line. One theory holds that while the GOP's base is confident Trump seems unshakable at the moment, fears about the impact of his legal issues and extremist language on swing voters will soon lead to doubts about his electability.
Yeah.
Maybe, but it hasn't happened yet. So, right, like, so there's now this sort of sense of like, are people going to be able or begin to doubt that he can actually win based off of his information? And swing voters are super important. Something like 10% of voters genuinely do vote on either side and move both directions. The other thing is bringing out voters who normally don't vote feel disenfranchised.
Yeah.
And then, and so that's why they go on to talk about, that's why Trump and DeSantis are both the leading candidates in the Republican Party at the moment for nomination, because the viewpoint within Republican base is that either one of them could beat Biden.
Right.
Christie, Haley, and Pence, Republicans don't believe that they can beat Biden.
Yeah, even Vivek is on there, but he's
So, right, if we read into this article a little bit further, later on, they say all this could change, of course. Nate Cohn sees a subtle shift in attitude against Trump in conservative media coverage and among elite GOP opinion leaders. So, right, as that shift happens, as people that are paying really close attention to the news and actually looking at all of the details, right, like your reporters, your oh man, I can't remember his name. Your Tucker Carlson's,
like
Sean
pundits,
Hannity's,
yeah, the pundits,
right? Like as they're reading this news, right? Like they're reading it in detail and then spinning it to paint Trump in a light that they want to paint him in, and they're doing that Like, as we talked about in our media episode, right? Like, they're doing it because they need to pander to their base.
Yep.
But eventually, as they keep seeing this stuff, they're not going to want to back him either. And they're going to recognize that if they want their party to win, they can't back Trump.
Yeah.
So then they're going to start working on spinning. And I think it'll be subtle, but I think you'll start to watch it. They're going to start working on spinning stuff to start being more honest and more truthful about what's going on.
I think what's one thing I think it's on Fox. I mean, you brought them up in the episode is Turley on Fox News saying, listen, these are bad. And they have Bill Barr on and they try to disagree with him, but he's like, listen, like this is bad, and I think what it is I heard, yes, with his base, they're eating this stuff up. They showed up to protest him being indicted, whatever. People say it wasn't a lot of people.
But Biden. And that's what we hear over and over and over again from anyone that's defending Trump is they're doing what a 5-year-old or 6-year-old who got in a fight with the kid next door would do.
Yeah.
But Joey did it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care that Joey did it. He's going to get in trouble with his parents. Yeah. You're in trouble with me.
Yeah. And then, again, on the left, all I've heard is like, great, if you think Biden did something, bring those documents to court and try him or, whatever. If you think Hunter Biden, listen.
I mean, I haven't heard that from left mainstream media. What I'm hearing is no, he was cleared. They looked at it. He's cleared.
Well, I mean, I've heard on like far progressive stuff, it's like, go after him. And two, even lawyers, I don't know if it was Turley or another lawyer, maybe it was Barr, where he said, no, like this is different because even Pence and Biden cooperated, right?
Right.
And Trump repeatedly, if they didn't, we haven't seen that evidence yet, but we have evidence of Trump not cooperating, and that's the obstruction of justice charge of like, hey, you can't
intentionally moving documents around, having his staff move the stuff around.
Right. Yeah. It's
flippantly.
Yeah. And the other guy, Narita or his Naru, like his assistant,
Nata.
Nata basically got a paperwork as well that he has to.
He's also facing charges.
Yeah, he's facing charges as well. So I think it is completely. I mean, again, I think we'll have to do this in a full episode, but this idea that you can immediately dismiss these charges because you are conservative, I think is like pretty bad. And there's no point. There's no point in doing anything. There's no point in
the strongest defense that I have seen, and there might be more, but the strongest defense that I have seen from anybody has been, well, but Biden's done it and Pence did it and Hillary did it. Why aren't we convicting them? This is just them trying to, punish Trump because they don't like him. I mean, who cares if they're right? You're right. We should go after Hillary.
I don't care.
Go for it. But I mean, that was Trump's own defense with his own attorneys. Well, Hillary's attorney was able to get her off after she deleted all of her classified stuff.
And that was another thing in the indictment where he was like, that attorney took the fall for his client. Isn't that, I mean...
Right.
And his attorney's like, I'm not doing that. Like...
Right, like this is not an argument. Like, okay, you're right. Sure. Right? Trump's the one facing indictments right now. Let's get him. And... so maybe the DOJ is corrupt, but here's the deal. If we flip the DOJ to a conservative, do you think that they won't be like, hey, we've set a precedent now. Now we might be able to convict him. The American people are happy that we convicted the president. Let's go after some of these other people who've done it.
I will say the one thing on the left that kind of bugs me lately has been the talk of Cannon, the judge who initially there was something that Trump got into a while ago that she ruled in favor of him for whatever. I forget what it was. And her decision was overturned by a 3-judge panel. And many of them were, I think, either all of them or 2 out of the 3 were appointed by Trump, very conservative. And a lot of people on the left have been saying, well, she should recuse herself. And I'm like, well, here we go again. Like, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy with the person that's presiding over it. And I think maybe if she read that decision of being overturned, like, they have to publish a decision of why they overturned her decision. Mm-hmm. So maybe she read that and was like, oh, you know what? You're right. Like, it may have seemed like I was holding water for Trump. I would like to be positive. I think she wasn't doing that. She was just interpreting the law in a certain way. And maybe after reading their rebuttal, she was like, you know what? I didn't think of these arguments. You guys are right. And now maybe going into this trial, she'll think more. Because, like, again, on the left, they're like, well, she should recuse herself. And I'm like, well, we'll just keep going and going. Then Jack Smith isn't independent. Then why is the Justice Department doing this? We should just throw away. It's like, you can't do that. You have to go, okay, what do we have right now? We have Jack Smith doing this. We have this judge. Yeah, it didn't go our way to begin with, but it may. I don't know. It just, again, it's this defeatist attitude of like, well, then what's the point? And it's like, you can't think of it like that. You have to say, okay, they have a really good indictment. Lawyers who are nice to Trump are even saying this doesn't look good. They have to really run, like you said, run the table on all the charges. And, I mean, that, and then there's a different case. So again, that judge could go, well, that was then, this is now. Looking at this indictment, and Turley said it, and I've heard other lawyers say, I think Bill Barr said, this indictment really tries to lay out why they're doing this. They're not being mealy-mouthed. They're really painting a picture, and like you said, putting a timeline down to prove to people this is why this is happening. So you can't just say like, oh, he did it one time or whatever.
It was willful and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
He knowingly kept the documents when he knew he wasn't supposed to, and he bragged about it.
Yeah.
And he knowingly tried to hide them when the government came asking for them. And just at the end of the day, I don't know that he beats it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So then, again, like I said earlier, right? Like I was starting to go through my head, like why are people so desperately trying to defend him? Why are they abandoning reason to defend this guy? And I think it's because they still believe in the promises that Trump has had, right? Like I don't think that diehard Trumpers are dyed-in-the-wool racists. No. I don't think that argument holds sway, and I detest that is where progressive and liberal media goes to. Like, oh, if you support Trump, you're a racist. They don't say it overtly, but basically that's the argument that's made. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that they are trying to defend American values. I think there's a lot of them that basically say, hey, Trump has done a lot to, assign judges and protect the lives of babies through, overturning of Roe v. Wade. I think that there are a lot of people who believe that Trump did a lot of really good things for this country that are not overtly racist. And I think a lot of them even believe that Trump did better things for minorities in the country. There are definitely Black conservatives who've been very vocal that Trump has actually advanced.
Well, I mean, it's
African Americans in the United States.
It's the idea of grievance, right? Like we've been aggrieved, and we want respite or whatever,
But they feel heard with Trump, right? Like even if he doesn't mean a thing that he said, when he came out in 2016 and started talking about like, hey, we're going to keep coal jobs here, we're going to keep jobs in America, we're going to, make America great again, hearkening back to this idealized history of the United States that never actually really was. I think people are still really attached to the dream. And so they would so much rather believe that what Trump says he's going to do is true than admit that, he pulled the wool over your eyes. There are so many better candidates within the Republican Party that can get more done. That can advance the country in better ways. Why on earth are you holding on to this liar with a death grip?
Yeah, I mean, too, I think, not to get into maybe a possible other topic, but I think some of the, like DeSantis, I think does well locally, but I don't know nationally how his message transfers. And I think that's going to be a problem because everybody's hitching themselves to the Trump ideal wagon, basically, and I don't know how that's going to play out, especially if he can't run for office and you have to, like, what's the gap that's going to be filled by these other candidates? I think that'll be fascinating. And then two, what happens, again, with the grief of politics, what happens to the next administration, whether it be Biden or whoever, that has to either pardon him or say, listen, we're going to make some changes at the FBI. We're going to make some changes at the DOJ. Is that met with, how is that met with, is it going to be, I mean, of course it's going to be partisan, but is it, I don't know.
I hope, but it won't happen because, like in the direction we're moving in this country, we've discussed it in former podcasts too. The direction we're moving in this country is deeper, broader division. We are getting more divided. and more strongly. So I am not hopeful. But my hope would be that we would bring forth a candidate, I don't care which party, that can actually reach across the aisle and start building connections. And more so, be a actual leader, a thought leader, a moral leader to actually start bringing Americans back together. We need someone who can stand up and say, hey, look, you don't agree with me on everything. I don't agree with you on everything, but we agree on a lot of the important stuff. We're all Americans.
Yeah.
Let's be committed to moving America forward. And you know what? We're going to have to make compromises. And you can't hold on to your ideals with an iron fist and expect that we're going to have a good society.
Yeah.
It will collapse. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of other stuff, and most of what I'm hearing right now is really disparaging for the future of the United States as a whole, for a whole bunch of reasons. But one of the biggest ones is the division among the people.
Yeah, I think that might be another topic, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've heard psychologists talk about it, that a lot of it is financial means, right? If you don't have the means to provide for your family and basically improve your station, you kind of get locked in this terrible cycle. And I think that's some of why Trump got elected. It was a grievance thing where he said, we're going to fix it. Now, did he? Probably not.
No. Did he make it better? No. Did he enrich his friends? Hell yeah.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did that. I mean, that's on record.
And his family and himself.
I mean, I think we're probably going to have to come back to this. This might be a little shorter episode, because obviously we just heard the indictment. He hasn't really been to, he hasn't gone to court yet. Because we may have to update this, because I want to see what's going to happen when they actually lay out a defense and say, here's where we're coming from, And if the judge is like, ooh, I think, and I want to point out on the right, that what I've heard is a lot of people say, how could Jack Smith do this, whatever. The way I understood it, Jack Smith and his team presented material to a jury, and that jury said, yes, we think there's enough here to indict the president. So it wasn't
it's called
just
a grand jury. That's the purpose of a grand jury.
Well, they don't really talk about that, though, on Fox News. Like the idea that this was Jack Smith's thing, that he grabbed all the paperwork, went into a courtroom and said, indict him. And that's not what happened. They had to present evidence in front of a grand jury, and the grand jury said, there is enough here to indict him. So it was, and that, I'm sure Trump's defense team wasn't going to let a bunch of liberal hippies, as it's been known, to come into the courtroom. Like, they're going to want a fair jury pool, right, at that time. So this, I just get, like you said, the division, the idea that, like, this was some kind of hit job, it's like, but they had to present evidence to a group of people. Like, they didn't just do it themselves. So,
and right, like, if you want to present yourself as being fair and honest, if you want to present yourself as someone who is against people leaking, potentially improperly caring for national secrets, like Trump did with Hillary for most of his campaign, right? Like, you can't turn around and then be like, hey, this is unfair.
Right.
Like, you did it.
And plus, when all this stuff started to come out a while ago, what was it, a year ago, when they raided Mar-a-Lago and all that, we covered it on the pod, but like the idea that he signed laws to make the Espionage Act more punitive. So he possibly, blew himself.
Actually may have hurt himself.
Yeah, as Tobias Funke on Arrested Development said, "Oh, it looks like I blew myself on this." He did it to himself. So, Tobias. So, like I said, a little shorter episode because we're just reacting to the initial indictment and him going to court. Avin, is there anything you want to, promote before we leave?
I always say it. Check out Your Agent Guide. Also on YouTube, if you're watching YouTube, if you're listening online, you can go to YouTube and look up Your Agent Guide, where I talk about just real estate tips, ideas, and if you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, Your Agent Guide provides an agent matching service to help you find the best agent for you in your area.
Yeah.
Personalized and specific. It's not just like looking on a website and going, that guy.
Yeah, that one. That's the roughest thing is, again, needle in a stack of needles of finding someone that, helps you out and works with you and you have a relationship with and you trust and stuff like that. Yeah. The only thing I'll plug is obviously my other podcast, Game of Grief. Avin is on there every once in a while. I just did another news episode about the Embrace It group because they have been funded by Saudi money and they've bought up studio after studio after studio. And about a week ago, it came out that they were looking for another round of funding and they lost a $2 billion deal. So the CEO had to write an open letter to the staff saying, we're looking at reducing people, but we don't know what. But it was going to be 17,000 people over the several companies that they own.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it is terrible to get a letter saying, hey, you might be fired or let go at any day. Like, that's terrible. So that's going to come out actually later today as we're recording this. But yeah, thanks for talking about this, Avin. I know we kind of did a pivot from the original whatever, but obviously this is a big deal. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next month. There's like 3 topics that I'm juggling with. Some of them I talked about during this episode. Some of them I have written down, and I'm really kind of juggling what to talk about. I was going to send you an article on clean EV batteries. And there was this whole report that came out about how in America we do a terrible job of investing in things because if it isn't a short-term game, then we ditch them. And this whole article laid out the case where we could have controlled the EV battery thing because it basically was scientists got together and decided they literally worked in a lab in a college and said, we know how batteries work. Let's try to use some compounds that aren't as terrible on the environment. And they were combining things together and they found a clean way to create a battery, but they ran out of funding. That may be something I talk about because, like I said, there's not a lot of hope lately, I think, with all this stuff that's going on and climate reports and all that. So that may be one thing, but I haven't really decided. So the next episode is kind of undecided yet. But again, I keep forgetting to do this, but I'm going to do it now. If you have a question or want to write to us, please write to us at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com. Let us know what episode you're talking about, that it's the grief of politics. And if you agree or disagree with one of us, let us know that. I'm paying for that I'm paying for that email address. Please use it. And you can subscribe and like us on either YouTube or we're on all the episodes up are on Spotify. That was an announcement I was going to make. All the video episodes we have are on Spotify. We decided to do video later. So not every episode is video, but the ones that are video, I think it's from 18 beyond, are all on Spotify now. And we're, when you put things on Spotify, people actually listen to your stuff. So we're actually getting some, not many, but we're getting some likes and things on Spotify. So yeah, I guess we'll talk to you guys next month. Everybody have a good Father's Day. And yeah, next month it is. See everybody later.